Hellboy, after quitting the BPRD, traveling to Africa, being captured by mermaids, and spending several years lost at sea, was invited by the witches of England to become their king.
Screw you guys.
He declined. The witches then reluctantly agreed to accept a new queen, Nimue, the sorceress who had seduced Merlin, stolen his powers, and entombed him alive, who had once so terrified the witches of England that they betrayed her and murdered her, who was cut into pieces and hidden away for hundreds of years in a cave. Nimue accepted the title Queen of the Witches, but shortly thereafter declared herself Baith Mahavorian, Goddess of War. With the aid of Bruagach of Lolene, she has gathered an army, the people out of the dark, those who have lived in dust with only hate to sustain them, an army whose ultimate purpose is the destruction of all life on Earth. Hellboy, meanwhile, has learned that he is descended on his mother's side from King Arthur and is therefore the rightful king of Britain. Hellboy has also fallen in love with Alice Monaghan, who, in 1959, he rescued when she was abducted by fairies. The noble dead of Britain have now risen from their graves to follow their new king into battle against Nimue's army of monsters. But Hellboy has decided he must face Nimue alone, leaving Arthur's sword with Alice. Hellboy has given his left eye to the Russian witch Baba Yaga, and in return she has promised to get him past Nimue's army to the tower where she prepares for war. Unaware that even at this moment she is undergoing a horrific transformation. And now,
our doing. We set it in motion. It was the pig, his doing, not ours.
But we could have stopped it.
Wait. Who's there? See his one eye. It's Odin out wandering the world. No, look to his hand, you see? He carries a hammer. Thor, then.
Where is she? She alone up there?
No, Ganida is with her.
I don't want this!
Want? You prayed for this.
No!
You called, and they answered.
No! Not like this!
The world turns one way. Even the great Nimue cannot turn back the world. You called and they answered, and so you kept your heart a dragon from the beginning of the dark.
Enough of this crap. One way or the other, it all ends here.
I can't believe this. After all Hellboy went through, all I went through to get the sword, to just throw it away?
What did he say?
He? Hellboy? You heard him.
No, what did Arthur say?
Alice Monaghan.
What? Arthur, that was just a dream, but he said that my life was bound to the sword. What does that mean?
Dear, come and have a look at this. That's young George Washbrook, 1814, right before he shipped off for war.
He looks nice.
Oh, but he was troubled.
Our programs involve art, but many connections to other disciplines, because we believe at the Serpentine
He looks nice.
Oh, but he was troubled. You see, he had two great aunts, Mary and Elizabeth Washbrook, who, in 1878, took money from some foreign power to try to kill Queen Victoria with witchcraft.
By the names and signs of evil angels. Uziel, Guziel, Zidiel, Priziel.
And all of his relatives since, one way or another, had been bad. So he went off to France to prove that he could be otherwise. Even if it only meant to die well for his country. But he didn't die. He should have, but as he used to tell it, a woman appeared to him there in the trenches, even as the blood was draining out of him from a dozen ragged holes. He drank from that cup, and though it should have been impossible, he got well, and he came home. And then for a year or more, he simply wandered from Plymouth to the Western Highlands, Blackpool to Southwold. One end of Britain to the other, and back again. And he used to say it was as though he was seeing all for the first time, and a great weight was lifted off him. One day he found this old place and bought it, and was content a long time to draw pipes and tell his tales.
A lady in white, with a gold cup.
Ah, pull the other one.
He grew old. He outlived a wife, children, all his friends, and as his years piled on him, he got a sense that he was waiting.
Waiting for what?
For something he felt was coming to him.
What about Hellboy? He told me to get rid of it. Throw it in a pond.
It was put in your keeping for a reason. It's for you to decide what's to be done with it.
I think this suits me better.
Oh my God.
Nimue!
Not anymore.
Guess I don't really care who you are.
Ah, but you do know me. Rasputin tried to set me free the day you were born. He failed, but I forgave him. I held him close and guided his hand, and when he tried again, he cracked the wall of my prison. Through that gap, I've stretched my long arm back into the world. I cast my shadow over all. No light, no hope. And finally, Nimue's madness and lust for power drew me out like a serpent to nest in her black heart. And now, all that was mine in the beginning will be mine again.
Son of a bitch!
Hellboy, whatever you are, whatever you were meant to be, you've come too late.
Listen! The dragon commands!
Your team writes too many emails to count. Grammarly Business makes each and every message clear.
Listen! The dragon commands!
Dragon?
Go forth into the world of men and kill them all!
What's happening?
Listen! She's loosed her army. They're coming!
What kind of army can she have? Men have tanks and bombs.
War rides ahead of it. Just behind it follow pestilence and famine. Close behind them, death. It's the army of the apocalypse. War is only the beginning. Pestilence and famine will rule the land. 2/3 of the people will die. The third that remain will be food for the creatures that come after.
Hellboy's army. The knights.
The dragon wants blood!
Take mine, if you can, for you will not set foot, hoof, or claw on English ground. This I swear!
I have to see it. Come back. I've come this far. I have to see it. He said dragon. What dragon?
Rebel angels created it. Darkness consumed it. It was chained and cast out, and all these millions of years it wanted nothing more than to be free, to reclaim this world.
Who are you? How do you know these things?
You feel it, don't you? It's close.
Shall I kill you now, or will you see it through to the end?
Screw you.
What?
Alice!
I said screw you, pal! I'm just getting started!
Then it's as it should be. Even the way you have lived, I feared you would choose an easy death.
What the hell does that mean?
This is better. It's right that you and I meet like this.
Oh yeah? You like that?
Hellboy, your fall should be like the fall of mountains. But I was before mountains. I was in the beginning and shall be forever. The first and the last. The world come full circle. You think you can fight me, kill me, as you would a beast? I am not the wheel. I am the hand that turns the wheel. I am time. The destroyer.
Jeez, you gotta shut up.
I was the wind and the stars before this. Before planets, before heaven and hell. And when all's done, I will be wind again. To blow this world as dust back into endless space. To me, the coming and going of man is as nothing. And you, because you made this choice to live like a man, in the end you also will be nothing. Here now, with me, this is your only moment, your glory. When the universe marks your passing, it will only be for this.
We didn't mean for this to happen. When Nimue came back, half the witches of England threw themselves into the sea to drown. And they were wise to do it. They are spared the horror of what's to come.
What is that?
The wild hunt. They smell the blood.
What does that mean?
Go!
Oh my God. King for a day. That's all he was. All he was ever going to be. But it was enough. A final victory for men. For at the last they were men again. The best men. Now gone to their reward. And tomorrow all lesser men to follow.
No. It's over. It has to be.
Old Queen Mab, she didn't tell you. This field.
Mab?
It is called Vigrid. And it's written in the stars and the roots of trees. When Ragnarok comes, it will be here. The champion of man will battle the dragon.
Hellboy.
And that will be the end.
It's as it should be. I was in the beginning and shall be forever. Time. The Destroyer. We are bound together in that. I was the wind and the stars before this. Before planets. Before heaven and hell. And when all's done,
Want to finish this?
I will be wind again.
Come on, then.
Let's finish!
Yeah? What are you gonna do?
New Listerine Go Tabs. Anytime and anywhere. Listerine Go Tabs transform into liquid.
I will be wind again.
Old Queen Mab, she didn't tell you. This field, it is called Vigrid. And it's written in the stars and the roots of trees. When Ragnarok comes, it will be here.
You're Queen Mab. Why didn't you tell me? We heard you were dead.
I am dead, girl. Dead and gone.
And Ragnarok?
The last battle, when the champion of man
fights a dragon. Yeah, I heard that part. But that woman made it sound like it was the end of the world.
Nimue is the dragon. I hoped that Hellboy would be able to stop her before this.
He tried.
But the storms come. Now it's laying waste to all Britain, and soon it will spread over the whole world. Monsters long buried will all rise again. For a while, it will be their world. Till it all burns. Then out of the ashes, a new world rises. That's Ragnarok. Not just an end, but a new beginning.
But all the people...
Everything will be swept away.
Hellboy?
No one could have done more.
But if he wins...
He cannot win.
No!
This world's run its course, but it's not that it goes. It's how it goes. The dragon, the Ogdru Jahad, It escaped its prison too soon. Hellboy fights to buy this world a little more time. Time enough for his friends to do what they must.
No!
So when the new world comes, at least the spirit of man will survive.
Hurry. Vasilisa. Hey, kid. How you doing?
How are you? Is there much pain?
It's like you said. It doesn't hurt.
You've come so far. Are you ready?
I guess so.
Hellboy!
I'm so sorry.
Hellboy?
Alice? How'd you get here? Doesn't matter. I'm just glad to see you. You wouldn't believe the day I've been...
Behind you! You!
What the...
Right now, 500 witches are clutching at my heels. They have me.
Nimue.
They are dragging me down. But if I'm bound for hell, I will not go alone.
Son of a...
Pig, of all players in this thing, you are always my favorite. I've a mind to spare you Merlin's curse.
Please. I've seen what's coming. I don't want to be here for it.
Neither do I.
Morgan.
You'll have to come with me now.
Where?
You know. Where such as you and I must always go in the end.
It's a phrase I've heard on 1,000 TV shows.
Is there a problem, officer?
Don't see me as I am. Don't see me as I am.
Do we look cool?
If you have to ask, no. But in this case, yes.
I just wanna break the rules.
the world's greatest paranormal investigator is not from this world at all. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're taking a look at the origins of Anung Un Rama, also known as Hellboy. As with most comic book characters, there are often different versions to a character's past. We have chosen to primarily follow the storyline that unfolded in 1994's Hellboy: Seed of Destruction, which was then expanded upon in 1996's Hellboy: Wake the Devil. Hellboy's origins trace back to World War II. Realizing that they were losing the war, the Nazis enlisted the help of a sorcerer named Grigory Rasputin, who promised to perform a miracle that would reverse the tide of the conflict. Under the close supervision of the Nazis' paranormal agents, he set about to perform his dark ritual in a remote location off the coast of Scotland. Unbeknownst to the Nazis, the Allies had gotten wind of this experiment and had sent their own paranormal team to investigate. Under the direction of England's top psychic medium, the Allied team set up camp in an old church. Sensing that something was about to happen there, the medium instructed the Allies to wait. Meanwhile, Rasputin completed his spell with the eruption of a brilliant flash of lightning, although to the dismay of the Nazis, it appeared that nothing had happened. However, back at the church, there was a momentous explosion. When the dust cleared, a small red demon was sitting calmly in front of the astonished Allied team. The top paranormal expert on site, Professor Trevor Brutenholm, dubbed the creature Hellboy, and became the creature's adopted father in the years that followed. Nearly 50 years later, we find Hellboy still with the Professor. Now fully grown, Hellboy works with the Professor at the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense as their top agent. Most of Hellboy's physical attributes stem from the fact that he is, in fact, a demon. He has red skin, cloven hooves for feet, and a tail. He also has 2 flat circles on his head, which are actually the bases of the horns he would have if he didn't keep them filed down. Although he is larger than a fully grown adult, Hellboy still retains the mental maturity of a young man, and seems to not age past his physical prime.
He's real. Yeah, 60 years old by our count, but he doesn't age like we do. Think reverse dog years. He's barely out of his 20s.
Perhaps his most distinguishing characteristic is his oversized right hand, which appears to be made of stone and is, for all intents and purposes, indestructible. Not only can he use this giant stone fist as a club in battle, but he also possesses superhuman strength and resilience. Although he is not invulnerable, he can sustain injuries that would surely kill mortal men. In the field, Hellboy sports a trench coat and an oversized revolver. He also carries a utility belt filled with charms and talismans that protect him from a variety of paranormal dangers. At the conclusion of Seed of Destruction, Hellboy confronts Rasputin. The sorcerer tells him that he was summoned to command the forces of evil, including the Ogdru Jahad, an enormous squid-like monster meant to bring about the destruction of the world. In the ensuing battle, the Ogdru Jahad and Rasputin are both defeated, but only due to the last-second intervention of Hellboy's friends Abe Sapien, an intelligent fishman, and Liz Sherman, a woman with unstable pyrokinetic abilities. In a later issue, entitled Wake the Devil, Hellboy is confronted by the goddess Hecate. She reveals his true name to be Anung Un Rama, which translates into, "Upon his brow is set a crown of fire." She reiterates to Hellboy that he is destined to bring about the end of days, and explains to him that his right hand is actually the physical key to this. It is also revealed, albeit rather indirectly, that Hellboy was actually born to a human mother, while she herself was imprisoned in hell. Throughout his adventures, Hellboy battles a wide variety of paranormal creatures and beings, and time again seems to only narrowly escape with his life and salvation. In recent years, Hellboy has starred in several animated features, as well as in 2 major motion pictures, which star Ron Perlman as Big Red himself.
Gonna be sore in the morning.
Are you a fan of the BPRD's top agent? For more wicked superhero origins, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
I'm fireproof. You're not.
Do we look cool?
If you have to ask, no. But in this case, yes.
I just wanna break the rules.
What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and if you're enjoying the content here on my channel, then make sure you hit the like button and make sure you hit subscribe so you can help decide what direction the content on my channel goes in the foreseeable future. Okay, so I was sitting here thinking about the audio that I recorded for The Death of Odin, and it actually occurred to me that I misspoke. I think in that video I stated that Odin killed Surtur. He didn't, because I mean, I recorded it like 3 hours ago, and I've been sitting here thinking about that. I was like, man, did I say that? But the audio is already sent off to my editor, and he's already got it put together, and I'm not going to make him go through and edit the whole thing again. And so I was like, man, like on the off chance that I did, you know, I don't know. In any event, Odin did not actually kill Surtur. Instead, it was basically the defeat, quote unquote, of Surtur, who was sent back to his own realm, basically sent back to the realm of Muspelheim. Now, the reason why this plays out is because of the fact that, remember, Surtur is an insanely powerful being, and Surtur himself, while Odin could probably go toe-to-toe, depending on the circumstance, if Odin is fully charged with the Odin sleep at the time they battled, Odin was weak, and so it was really more of a means to basically defeat Surtur temporarily, as opposed to take him out entirely. And so where Odin had basically died in the process, the result was that Surtur was confined back to his own realm. Now, there are a few things that took place with regards to the character of Thor between the time that Odin had basically died and Thor became king of Asgard, and the events that take place here during Ragnarok. The first thing, and really probably the most important thing, is that there was a period where Thor had the Odin Force. The problem is that if you recall our video on the death of Odin, one of the reasons Odin did not initially intervene in Thor's fight against the Destroyer was because of the fact that if Thor won, he would eventually go on to become this tyrannical ruler using the Odin Force. And so it was really Odin, basically his life essence, essentially the Odin Force itself, killing two birds with one stone, in the sense that it saw the defeat of Surtur and the death of Odin himself, but when Thor gained the Odin Force, it resulted in the Odin Force being taken away because Thor just wasn't ready for that kind of power yet. Now, a lot of that stuff's being revisited right now during Jason Aaron's run, as he started with like Thor God of Thunder and the future, you know, Old Man Thor, different things like that. So a lot of that information that existed will probably be eliminated and replaced with something else. But for the interim, it's basically this idea that right now, Thor does not have the Odin Force. Now remember, the Odin Force is basically the energy source of Odin. It's the life force of Odin's two brothers. It's basically what allows Marvel to tell stories where Odin can do all these incredibly crazy things. The downside to this is that with Thor only having whatever strengths available to him as the most powerful Asgardian, in terms of the fact that he's the son of Odin and the son of Mother Earth, more or less, of Gaia, it allows Loki to begin the process of developing his own schemes. That's the whole idea here. Remember, when it comes to Loki in Marvel Comics, his ultimate goal is to always basically depose Thor, remove him from the chessboard, and then when the time comes when Odin passes on, or if Loki has the opportunity to kill Odin, to basically take his place and become ruler as Asgard. And so in this instance, because of the fact that Loki is looking to basically topple Thor and replace him, since he's the only thing that stands in Loki's way of becoming the new king of Asgard, Loki basically seeks out the mold that was used to create Thor's hammer. In Marvel Comics, the creation of Thor's hammer was not something done explicitly for Thor. Both during, you know, the old Stan Lee, Jack Kirby stories, Walt Simonson's run, and even the modern run with Jason Aaron, it's been established over and over and over again, the hammer of Mjolnir was created by Odin for him to use in order to basically defeat the various enemies that Asgard faced. It wasn't until Thor came along that Odin had basically decided that Thor would be the next best person to wield the hammer, especially after Thor became worthy, because Odin didn't really engage in conflict anymore. He was more or less just a ruler and let everybody else deal with all the different battles and different squabbles. Odin would step in, but only when things really popped off and everything was pretty dire. And so what this does is it basically hits home at the idea that Loki takes this forge and sends it to Surtur back in his own realm. And what Surtur begins to do is basically begin crafting hammers. Now this is a big deal because it was always prophesied that Loki would be the one to bring Ragnarok to Asgard, which is to say, to bring the end of all things. And this is when Loki basically makes his move. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is that in the story, some things will be left out in the sense that there is basically a whole huge set of battles that aren't necessarily given here. Instead, it takes place off panel and Thor figures it out as he goes along, which again, we'll basically talk about here as we progress through this video. But the whole idea is that Loki marching against Asgard comes with essentially every enemy of Asgard, whether it's the trolls, the giants, whether it's his son, Fenrir Wolf. It's Loki marching against all these different characters. Now, one thing to keep in mind, when it comes to the offspring of Loki, it's not really fleshed out in Marvel Comics, whether it's Fenrir Wolf or even the Midgard serpent. These in Norse mythology are concepts that will lead to the ruin of the gods, in the sense that in real world Norse mythology, when it comes to the death of Thor and the deaths of Odin, Odin dies at the hands of Fenrir Wolf. Thor himself dies at the hands of the Midgard serpent. Again, the events of Ragnarok in Norse mythology play out pretty differently than they do in Marvel Comics. I mean, with this whole scenario of Loki basically just obliterating every single Asgardian that he can possibly come across, Thor being incapacitated in the onslaught, right off the bat, things go crazy. Elmora the Enchantress is dead. Sif ends up losing an arm. Thor is knocked unconscious and tries to make his way back, but ultimately is taken out by the other individuals who are wielding hammers that were fashioned for them. Fenrir Wolf and Ulik the Troll, I think it is. And the whole idea is that while these hammers again are not as powerful as Thor's hammer, when they all make contact, Thor's hammer is shattered and basically all hope is lost. And that's the significance of this, and that's the significance of Ragnarok. The idea of Ragnarok is not the notion that, man, everything's coming to an end, but it'll all be okay because Thor will save the day. No, it's the end of all things. It's the end of the Asgardians. It's the end of all the gods. But the destruction of Thor's hammer is a pretty big deal because it signifies that there's no coming back, that there's no conceivable way for Thor to be able to win. And so what he does is, in the midst of fighting this Midgard serpent, he basically takes what little energy is left in his hammer and then teleports himself all the way to New York. And when he shows up, it's him and like everything with him, which is to say all this water and the Midgard serpent and so on and so forth. But it meets with the arrival of Captain America and Iron Man, who are off in the middle of doing their own thing. But with Thor showing up here, it's him basically saying, the end is nigh. The end of all the Asgardians is here. You guys have to come with me, and you guys have to help me stave this off. Now again, this is an act of desperation, because under normal circumstances, we would not expect Iron Man or Captain America to be able to reasonably stand against all the forces that are invading Asgard right now under the leadership of Loki. And so with, Captain America and with Iron Man and with Thor basically showing up in the ruins of Asgard, what they end up having here is this realization that Loki is indeed killing every single Asgardian he comes across. Now, what's going to happen here is we're actually going to find out there's a little more to this scheme than Loki's initially putting on, but it's cool in terms of what it is, because it's basically this idea that we get Captain America and Iron Man fighting against these pretty incredible forces. I mean, when it comes to like